Speaker. Yep, we are good. All right. Hey, everybody. Good evening. Oh, thing that was empty. Lots going on. All right. We're in chapter 2, 6 most dangerous enemies. I just want to go to the index. Does it even have an index? Well, not that I'm aware of. Okay. There we go. Chapter 2. This is another after the lesson visit. So are we even to chapter 2 yet? No, lesson 2, definite chief aim, definite chief purpose. So we have 4 more pages to go. Here we go. The 6 most dangerous enemies. And after the lesson visit with the author, the 6 specters are labeled fear of poverty, fear of death, fear of ill health, fear of loss, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of criticism. He says these are the 6 ones that if you can figure out how to manage and deal with them, you'll be amazing. Every person on earth is afraid of something. Most fears are inherited. We are taught our fears. It's easy in this essay, Dr. Freud to the lobby. In this essay, you may study the 6 basic fears which do the most damage. Your fears must be mastered before you can win in any worthwhile undertaking in life. Find out how many of the 6 fears are bothering you. But more important than this, determine also how to conquer those fears. In big capital IN, in this picture, you have the opportunity to study our 6 worst enemies. These enemies are not beautiful. The artist who drew this picture did not paint the 6 characters as ugly as they really are. If he had, no one would have believed him. As you read about these ugly characteristics, analyze yourself and find out which of them does you the most damage. The purpose of this essay is to help the readers of this course throw off the deadly enemies. Observe that the 6 characteristics are at your back, where you cannot conveniently see them. Every human being on earth is bound down to some extent by one or more of these fears, these unseen fears. The first step to be taken is killing off these enemies. The first step to be taking in killing off these enemies is to find out where and how you acquired them. They got their grip upon you through 2 forms of inheritance. I didn't know that was a word, inheritance, through inheritance. One is known as physical heredity. Oh, maybe if I said it right. Heredity. 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 Yeah. Country boy reading. Heredity. 2 forms of heredity. One is known as physical heredity, to which Darwin devoted so much study. The other is known as social heredity, through which the fears, superstitions, and beliefs of men who lived during the Dark Ages have been passed on from one generation to another. Let's study. First, the part of the physical heredity that has played in creating these 6 basic fears. Starting at the beginning, we find that nature has been a cruel builder. From the lowest form of life to the highest, nature has permitted the stronger to prey upon the weaker forms of animal life. The fish prey upon the worms and insects, eating them boldly. Birds prey upon fish. Higher forms of animal prey upon birds and upon one another, all the way up the line to man. And man preys upon all other lower forms of animal life and upon man. The whole story of evolution is one unbroken chain of evidence of cruelty and destruction of weaker by the stronger. No wonder the weaker forms of life have learned to fear the stronger. No wonder the weaker forms of life have learned to fear the stronger. The fear consciousness is born into every living animal. I wonder if they're going to get into it here, where it actually talks about when you eat something scared, you take on the vibration of that. No wonder, so much fear, so much for the fear instinct that came to us through the physical heredity. Now let us examine social heredity and find out what part it has played in our makeup. The term social heredity has reference to everything that we are taught, everything we learn or gather from observation and experience with other living beings. Lay aside the prejudices and fixed opinions you may have formed, at least temporarily, and you may know the truth about your 6 worst enemies, starting with the fear of poverty. It requires courage to tell truth about the history of the enemy of mankind, this enemy of mankind, and still greater courage to hear the truth after it has been told. The fear of poverty grows out of man's habit of preying upon his fellow man economically. The animals which have instinct, but no power to think, prey upon one another physically. Man, with a superior sense of intuition and has more powerful weapon of thought, does not eat his fellow man bodily. He gets more pleasure from eating him financially. So great an offender is man in this respect that nearly every state and nation has been obliged to pass laws, scores of laws, to protect the weak from the strong. Every blue sky law is indisputable evidence of man's nature to prey upon his weaker brother economically. The second of the 6 basic fears with which man is bound down is fear of old age. The fear grows out of two major causes. First, the thought that old age may bring with it poverty. Secondly, from false and cruel sectarian teachings, which have been so well mixed with fire and brimstone, that every human being learned to fear old age because it meant the approach of another and perhaps a more horrible world than this. The third of the 6 basic fears is fear of ill health. This fear is born of both physical and social heredity. From birth until death, there is eternal warfare within every physical body. Warfare between groups of cells, one group being known as the friendly builders of the body, and the other ones the destroyers or disease germs. The seed of fear is born in the physical body to begin with as a result of nature's cruel plan of permitting the stronger forms of cell life to prey upon the weaker. Social heredity has played its part, though, lack of cleanliness and knowledge of sanitation, also through the law of suggestion cleverly manipulated by those who profited by ill health. The fourth of the 6 basic fears is the fear of the loss of love of someone, the fear of loss of love of someone. This fear fills the asylums with the insanely jealous. For jealousy is nothing but a form of insanity. It also fills the divorce courts and causes murders and other forms of cruel punishment. It is the holdover handed down through social heredity from the Stone Age, where man preyed upon his fellow man by stealing his mate by physical force. The method, but not the practice, has now changed to some extent. Instead of physical force, he now steals his fellow man's mate with pretty, colorful ribbons and fast motor cars and bootleg whiskey and sparkling rocks and stately mansions. Man is improving how he entices where once he drove. The fifth of the 6 basic fears is the fear of criticism. Just how and where man got this fear is difficult to determine, but it is certain that he has it. But for this fear, man would not become bald-headed. Bald heads come from wearing a tightly fitting hat bands, which cut off the circulation of the roots of the hair. Women are seldom are bald because they wear loose-fitting hats. But the fear of criticism Man would lay aside his hat and keep his hair. The makers of clothing have not been slow to capitalize this basic fear of mankind. Every season, the styles change because the clothes makers know that few people have the courage to wear a garment that was one season out of step with what they are all wearing. If you doubt this, you gentlemen, start down the street with last year's narrow-brimmed straw hat on, when this year's style calls for a broad brim. Or, you ladies, walk down the street on Easter morning with last year's hat on. Observe how uncomfortable you are, thanks to the unseen enemy of criticism. The sixth and last of the six basic fears is the most dreaded of them all. It is called the fear of death. For tens of thousands of years, man has been asking and still unanswered questions: whence and whither. The more crafty of the race have not been slow to offer an answer to this eternal question. Where did I come from and where do I go after death? Come into my tent, says one leader, and you may go to heaven after death. Heaven was then pictured as a wonderful city whose streets were lined with gold and studded with precious stones. Remain out of my tent and you go straight to hell. Hell was then pictured as a blazing furnace where the poor victim might have the misery of burning forever in brimstone. No wonder mankind fears death. Take another look at the picture of the beginning of this essay and determine, if you can, which of the six basic fears is doing the greatest damage. An enemy discovered is half-whipped. Thanks to the schools and colleges, man is slowly discovering these six enemies. The most effective tool with which to fight them is organized knowledge. Ignorance and fear are twin sisters. They are generally found together. But for ignorance and superstition, the six basic fears would disappear from man's nature in one generation. In every public library may be found the remedy of the six enemies of mankind, providing that you know what books to read. Begin reading The Science of Power by Benjamin Kidd, and you will have broken the stranglehold of most of the six basic fears, followed by reading Emerson's essay on compensation. Then select some good book on autosuggestion, self-suggestion, self-talk, and inform yourself on the principle through which your beliefs of today become the realities of tomorrow. Mind in the Making by Robinson will give you a good start to understanding your own mind. Through the principle of social heredity, ignorance and superstition of the Dark Ages have been passed on to, wait for it, to you. But you are living in the modern age. On every hand, you may see evidence that every effect has a natural cause. Begin now to study the effects of their causes, and soon you will free your mind from the burden of the six basic fears. Begin by studying men who've accumulated great worth and find out the cause of their achievements. Henry Ford is a good subject to start with. Within a short period of 25 years, he has whipped poverty and made himself the most powerful man on earth. There was no luck or chance or accident back of his achievement. It grew out of his careful observation of certain principles which are as available to you as they were to him. Henry Ford is not bound by the six basic fears. Make no mistake about this. If you feel that you are too far away from Ford to study him accurately, then begin by selecting two people whom you know close at hand. One representing your idea of failure. Study these people. One representing your idea of failure, and the other corresponding to your idea of success. Find out what made one a failure and the other a success. Get the real facts. Just facts, ma'am. In the process of gathering these facts, you will have taught yourself the great lesson of cause and effect. Nothing ever just happens. What's the rest of that? We hear another phrase. Everything happens just. Everything from the lowest animal form that creeps on the earth or swims in the seas up to man, is the effect of nature's evolutionary process. Evolution is an orderly change. No miracles are connected with the orderly change. Not only do the physical shapes or colors of animals undergo slow, orderly change from one iteration to another, but the mind of man is also undergoing constant change. Herein lies your hope for improvement. You have the power to force your mind through the process of a rather quick change. In a single month of properly dedicated self-suggestion, properly dedicated self-suggestion, you may place your foot upon the neck of every one of your 6 basic fears. In 12 months of persistent effort, you may drive the entire herd into a corner where it will never do you any serious injury. You will resemble tomorrow the dominating thoughts that you keep alive in your mind today. Plant in your mind the seed of determination to whip your 6 basic fears, and the battle will have been half won then and there. Keep this intention in your mind, and it will slowly push your 6 worst enemies out of sight, as they exist nowhere except in your mind. Keep this intention in your mind, and it will slowly push your 6 worst enemies out of sight, as they exist nowhere except in your mind, as they exist nowhere except in your mind. The man who is powerful fears nothing, not even God. The powerful man loves God, but fears him never. Enduring power never grows out of fear. Any power that is built upon fear is bound to crumble and disintegrate. Understand this great truth, and you will never be so unfortunate as to raise yourself to power through the fears of other people who may owe you temporary allegiance. Man is of soul and body formed for deeds, of high resolve, on fancy's boldest wing, to soar unwearied, fearlessly to turn the keenest pangs to peacefulness and state. The joys which mingled sense and spirit yield, or he is formed for abjectness and woe, to grovel on a dunghill of his fears, to shrink at every sound, to quench the flame of natural love is sensualism, to know that our as blessed when he on his worthless days the frozen hand of death shall set its seal. Yet fear the curve through hating and disease, the one man that shall hereafter be, the other man as vice has made him now. There's probably a better cadence to read that poem. There you go. There's the end of chapter 1. We're not going to start definite cheap aim. Thoughts, comments, questions? What'd you take away from this? 62 pages of content. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
I'm still trying to decipher the last little bit.
The 6 fears, reading that part, or the last poem?
No, the last, yeah, in the poem.
Okay, man is of soul and body, formed for deeds of high resolve on fancy's boldest wing, to soar unwearied, fearlessly to turn the keenest pangs to peacefulness and state the joys which mingled sense and spirit yield. So we're supposed to do stuff, right? We're formed for deeds, for tasks, but we're supposed to be able to do them easily, right? On fancy's boldest wing, to turn unwearied, to turn without fear, to turn without worry, fearlessly to turn the keenest pangs, the most sharpest discomforts into peacefulness, and taste the joys which mingled sense and spirit, which meaning body and soul, right? We feel good. It's the state which they yield when they work together in harmony. Or if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to fly on the easy wing and be able to turn suffering into peace, you can do this. Or he is formed, right? This is, the two envelopes that Napoleon Hill talks about. We all come over with two envelopes. This is kind of maybe where he got it from. Or he is formed for objectiveness, and woe, meaning just pain and misery, right? To grovel on the dunghill of his fears. To be sitting talking about your fears on a pile of poo-poo-poo-choo. To shrink at every sound, to be scared to death, to quench the flame of natural love and sensualism, to never find love, to anytime somebody shows you peace, right? Somebody throws a wet blanket on it, you throw a wet blanket on it. To know that hour as blessed when on his worthless days, to know the hour as blessed when on his worthless days, the frozen hand of death shall set its seal. So knowing that even when you have a good day, it's not going to last, right? These are the catastrophizers. Yet fear the cure, though hating the disease, the one man that shall hereafter be, the one man that shall hereafter be, the other man as vice has made him now. That one I'm not sure. We'd probably have to get some scholar to do that. Anybody have any take on that? Yet fear the cure. So the frozen hand of death shall set its seal. Yet fear the cure, though hating the disease. Yet fear the cure. Okay, so this is network marketing. I've got the fix for you, but I don't want to do network marketing. Yet fear the cure, though you hate the disease. I hate being in poverty, but I'm showing you how to get out of poverty. I'm showing you how to get out of pain. This is you hanging on to your identity. The one man that shall hereafter be, the other man as vice has made him now. The other. The one man that shall hereafter be, yet fear the cure, though hating the disease.
Do you think he might be talking about the one is man that shall hereafter be, the first part of that,
Mm-hmm.
and the other man as vice has made him now. His vice, the things that he was unwilling, he didn't like the disease, but he didn't want the the frozen hand of death, the fear of the cure, though hating the disease, that he did himself. He did his own vice.
Yep.
That's the man now. Do you think that's what he's talking?
I'm sure that makes a sense. That sure sounds like it. See how powerful it is to know some poetry and quotes? They teach whole lessons. They seriously do. So what do you take from the mastermind? What's your biggest takeaway from Section uno.
The book I'm looking on, I have the one online, right? So it's 251 pages.
Okay.
Under that last quote there, you said, it says one of the most destructive evils is slanderous talk. It breaks human hearts and ruins reputations with a ruthlessness unknown in connection with all other evils. It's just these little blue highlights through
Yep.
it all.
So what do you get from that?
Um, is when people, it says like slanderous talks. So you talk about people or you talk badly about them. And
And it may or may not be true what they're saying, but it probably based upon this, it's slander. It's not true.
yeah.
So you may be saying ill about somebody else, but what does it say about you to be the one who's speaking ill about somebody else? What does the person hearing you think? Right.
Yes.
That's why you got to be careful. It's a small world. There's people who know people who know people, and you all know the same people. And it's crazy how it works that way.
Yeah, you'd hurt yourself in the process.
Yep. 2 ways to have the tallest building, right? Build
Yeah.
yours bigger or tear everybody else's down. And if
Mhm.
you're a terror downerer, you're not usually you don't have there ain't nobody else, or there's not going to be too many buildings for you to tear down, so it's not going to be a real big problem.
Do you think that the it also speaks to slanderous talk? What what benefit would come of slanderous talk in a mastermind? It's that shallowness that, between the deep and the shallow.
Well, those are the people that usually wonder why they're never invited into a mastermind. So if I'm not in it, I can only speak ill of it. If I have, right, the 6 human needs that Tony Robbins talks about: security and significance. If you're looking for security, and so it's security, variety, significance, and love and affection. Most people operate out of significance and security. And if you are that, there will be slander coming out of your mouth. You will be in pain the majority of your life. If you are looking for security, because there's nothing secure, because everything dies, even a good thought dies, even a good experience passes away, you have to deal with variety. And if you're looking for significance, social media has just absolutely flooded that human need. So, and you can't get to 5 and 6, freedom and contribution, until you have all the other 4. You can't just be lovey-dovey, and you just can't be dealing with variety. I'm okay, whatever you want. You have to have, there's a certain level of security and significance you need. But it's when you live from only those 2 that your life suffers. And your life suffers if you're dealing with, I'm okay with whatever, and you deal with, I just want to love everybody and I'm okay, you will be the imprint of a tire track, because you'll get run over. So you have to have it's called ego. You have to have an ego. I have a pretty big ego. I have a very big ego.
But you have to have belief too, right?
And the belief comes from your security and your significance, understanding that you're valuable. Now there's people who have huge egos and they're just whack-a-moles running amok. And nobody likes them because they're all significance and all security. And they tell you, it's all mine. And it doesn't work that way. So what's your big takeaway from the mastermind chapter? What's some other big takeaways?
Now that we're that we're at the end of it, and filling in all the corners of what a mastermind is, I am being reminded of the one who speaks slander. There's a mastermind going on, and there's traction, and there's something appears. It dissipates because there's one maverick not part of it, and the entire everything that was discussed, all the thoughts, all the ideas are completely diminished and not remembered. Whoa.
Could be why we have a lot of deja vu.
Fascinating.
Mastermind, a mind which grows out of a blending and coordination of two minds or more. And there's other things they've capitalized. This they capitalized and bold, in a spirit of perfect harmony. That's the thing I get from it. As many times as I've read Hill and Think and Grow Rich and listen to Outwitting the Devil, this idea of it's a quest to understand perfect harmony. My awareness now brings me to things. There's a branch on the tree right outside my office. There's a branch that's right over the grill, that in the last 3 days, all of the leaves, the stem that the leaf was on, there was all of this like little stuff, looked like sawdust, but it wasn't sawdust. It looked like something had put little tiny, it looked like sprinkles you'd put on an ice cream. Like, that's weird. And I'm looking at it. That's just blow. It's kind of all around, but it's centralized. And then this morning when what came out, there was all of parts of leaves and everything else. And I looked up and there's a branch probably 2 feet, 3 feet, a meter long. And all the stem that the leaves were on that are attached to the branch, the leaves are all gone. Every leaf is gone for about 3 feet. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is that like elm weevil disease or something for this tree? Am I gonna have to cut the tree down and because it's right here, right? You just don't go, timber, right? And it's just, so something is out of harmony with that branch. But all the green little sticks, it looks like a cartoon came by and just somebody ate all the leaves off. There's not a leaf, like a piece of leaf on the stem. It's just leaves all gone, stem. It literally looks like that. So when my eye is to look at everything in harmony, like, what is out of harmony with that branch? I wonder, so my mind goes to, I wonder if it's the heat from the grill that went up there and did blah, 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 blah. One little branch and there's anyways. So perfect harmony. That's my biggest, perfect harmony. That's my biggest takeaway. Who else? Thoughts, comments, questions? Takeaways, take with yous.
I agree with the harmony. And one thing that came through was man's chief business in life is to succeed. Right.
Is there anything that you can think of that when you planted, its goal is to die? It may come out funky, but for the most part, everything is designed to live. Now, it is dying the second it starts living, right? It's getting closer, one step closer, one seed closer, one tomato plant closer, one tomato close. I'm gonna, it's a good thing we're not geared to eat chickens that we have on the ranch here. Cause they're testing my faith in that. Cause they are eating every tomato that they can pick from their beak down. And because those are the ones closest to the roots. Those are the ones that turn red first. So I got to go out and steal the tomatoes from the chickens. They eat the dog food. Now they're eating the tomatoes. For the love of good Lord and all that's holy in heaven. And I see them in there, and I see their little heads pecking. I'm like, you eating one of my tomatoes? Oh, you son of a better lay an egg today. It's just, so that's not in harmony. That's not harmony for me. And it's cheap and it's fun. It's funny. They won't eat the green ones. No, man's chief aim is to succeed. So if we know that, this goes back to Dorothea Brand. Act as if you could not fail. What else? What other things come up? Chemistry of minds together. I kind of knew that, but didn't really have the explanation of it. Oh man, we just get along so well. That's chemistry of the mind. And how many of us know that pure love, or at least what we talk about it, opposites attract? I'll never forget Wayne Dyer saying one time, he said, when I meet people after an event and they come up to me and they go, Dr. Dyer, oh my gosh, this was so amazing. And we loved what you did. And we're so in love. And we finish each other's sentences and we love the same food and we love the same thing. He said, I'm thinking in my mind, this marriage is doomed. This is doomed. It's just doomed. He goes, there's got to be some friction, because if I like everything my daddy always said, if we agree on everything, we don't need one of us. And that's where a lot of people who you see come through the morning calls, because they want to agree on everything. Not gonna happen. A million points of light. George W. the First, not gonna happen. George Harold, what was his? George H. Bush. Not gonna happen. What else? Any other thoughts, comments, takeaways? We get to move on to chapter 2. Wow, that page has a lot of writing. What do I have here? Finding out what your available powers are. You are seriously engaged in finding out. Do not become discouraged if the description of this foundation appears to have none of the thrilling effects of a modern tale of fiction. You are seriously engaged in finding out what are your available powers and how to organize them and apply these powers. To complete this discovery successfully, you must combine determination, persistency, as well, and a well-defined desire to gather and organize knowledge.
Where were you reading that from?
This was page 23 in the blue book.
Doesn't help me at all.
I know. So let me see here. It was
It wasn't the beginning of chapter 2. That was in
no,
the
this is still
of the
chapter. Yeah,
course.
this is way back in chapter 1.
Okay. I'll find it.
This was episode 8.
Oh, episode 8. My goodness. Okay.
Yeah, and we're on episode 20 something.
Mhm.
This is when they're talking about we just finished up with all of the ether and the air and the atoms and everything. And it goes on to say, suppose you have the power to make to complete this discovery, you must have, as well as defined desire to gather organized knowledge. The late Dr. Graham Bell, Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the long distance telephone and one of the accepted authorities on subject of vibration, is here to introduce in support of the author's theory concerning the subject of vibration. Right? At about 32,000 vibrations a second, the sound will be loud and shrill, but at 40,000, it'll become silent. And so that's where it's saying we're talking about the gap. Right? So we don't hear it from 40,000 vibrations all the way up to 1,000,005. 40,000 to 1,000,005. We got nothing. I go, tell me what you hear, Sean. I got goose egg. I got bupkis. I got nothing. But at 1,000,005, we have a sense that we can appreciate the effect of intervening vibrations. After this stage is reached, movement is indicated first by a sense of temperature, because it's vibrating so fast, and we can now feel the heat. And when the rod becomes red hot, by a sense of sight. At 3 million, it sheds violet light. Above that, it sheds ultraviolet and other invisible radiations, some of which can be perceived by instruments employed by us. So we go from 32 to 40,000, 8,000 vibrations difference. And then from there, from 40 to 1.5 million. Nothing. Bupkis, goose egg. You got nothing. Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing, Shelly. I'm flying blind over here. 40. So we see that much, and then there's a gap of that much. And then we see that much. That's all the ether. Right? So let's put it into terms that I might be able to explain it better. There's 5 of us here, and I know that much of what you know. Right? And you know that much of what I know. And yet, and there's all of this. There's the whole size of the room. But I know what you know, and you know what I know, and yet there's this harmony that we work together in, so that all of this can come through the ether into those awarenesses. And we have to understand that we can operate in the known or allow the known to bring us the unknown. We're always operating in faith, aren't we? We get in a car and drive. Yes, we're safe and secure, but how tall is the yellow line in Canada? Is it any taller in Washington than it is where I live? Do you mean it's not like there's some places there's a wall where people can be really stupid, but the yellow line, it's not really tall, is it? But isn't it an invisible fence? You stay on your side, I stay on mine. So it's a boundary. We pay more attention to those boundaries than we do in our real life until we decide to have boundaries. Now, boundaries in real life, they don't even have a yellow line. It's that line from the Night at the Museum 2. Right? You've seen the video. Don't cross this line. Don't touch it. Do not cross this line. Oh, you did it again. You crossed this line. Right? It's the funniest thing. One of the funny things. So what are the boundaries that you need to have so that you can allow, because sometimes we're too busy battling the boundaries to let all of the ether flow into our known. And there you go. Good night.
There was a phrase you said, and
Yeah.
and then I got caught up in what you were saying. I forgot what it was. It was about I think it was we can operate in the known, and it is the something about the all the unknown. And I don't know. Now I
Oh,
have
too many people operate in the known without letting the unknown come into it.
okay.
We can operate in the unknown. We can operate in the known, allowing the unknown to fill into, right? It's what Thomas Paine called. Remember what Thomas Paine called the voluntary
The
visitors?
voluntary visitors. Yeah.
So we operate in the known, and a lot of people don't allow the voluntary visitors. When you begin to allow the voluntary visitors, and one of the graces of being in a mastermind that you get to serve others that you're working in perfect harmony with, even though your goals are completely opposite ends of the polarity, is because you get to give. There hasn't been in 1,890 episodes one thought that has come to me like, I'm not giving that away. I only got one. I ain't giving that. I only got one. I don't even know where it came from. I don't even know it's mine. No, it's all the unknown. It's the ether. It says, I'm getting this download. I'm hearing it. I'm sitting in the known, and I'm allowing the ether, the voluntary visitors, to just hang out in the mezzanine and go, here we go. Yep. And some of them jump over, and I'm like, I'm not sure. And that's when I started to give up, going, listen, if it comes in, it comes out. I didn't have the right translation sometimes when it came out. And then we would talk through it, me and whoever the person was that I was working with. I go, I'm seeing this, but I don't know what that means. And they would say, well, it means this. And then that's how I learned my translation. Because I see these images and they're translated. They have it's like sign language to me. Literally, I see this sign, I see this image. Sometimes it's 3D, sometimes it's motion, but I get these images or these feelings or these old stories, and there's a essence to that image that is meant for the story, the current dialogue. But that's all coming from the ether. None of that stuff sits in my head. Our brain holds 6 million Wall Street journals. And that's the part that we know about. You're so talking about. Anyone else? Last thoughts?
Thank you
Go
for
ahead.
sharing your ether.
Yeah. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Beamish is such a baby. Come on, baby. I love you.
He's such a cutie.
He is.
Every form of energy in every species of animal or plant life to survive must be organized.
Hmm.
And then these are the stars I had written down. Organized knowledge is the harmony of facts, truths, and natural laws. So it all flows.
So understand that every one of us on our journey to more is looking to become more what? More organized. Right? And there's truth back to that organized to us. It's called faith, it's called grace, call it whatever you want. But as we become more organized, are we not less stressed? So we're in a Bob Proctor dis-ease, a body not at ease, until we get into the comfort zone, which allows us to be unorganized comfortably in a acceptable pain level until such time we break again. Because we're afraid to do better than our parents. for the most part. Don't embarrass me. We took that literally at every level. When you say don't embarrass, if you said to one of your friends, don't embarrass me, they would know what that means. But you say that to a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, don't embarrass me. That's different. The word embarrassed, they don't have a concept of it. I used to tell Mason, if we go in here and you want to act goofy, make sure people laugh with me. I don't want people to cry at Daddy. That wasn't about embarrassment. That was a physical act that he understood at the time. He said to me the other day, he goes, why would I want people to cry at you? I'm like, where did that come from? How far was that left field? He said, I just had this feeling the other day. I said, and I told him, I said, when we would go into stores, I said, let's not let people cry at us. What do you mean? Let's just make them happy. Oh, we can do that. Okay, good. So he'd be down the aisle or whatever, and down the aisle 2 feet away from me. Daddy, I love you. I love you too, Mason. Did that work? I said, I think so. So yeah, we all want to succeed. We've just, again, Dorothea Brand, great book, Wake Up and Live, said the reason that I stay stuck is because we have this universal agreement that as long as I don't mention your failures to you, you won't mention mine to me. I heard that. I stopped the mower. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have my notebook. I don't have my journal. I was going to spell it in the grass. I was so, but as you can tell, I haven't forgot it. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways, take with yous? All right, my eagles. We will see you on the morrow. Get my hat squared on straight. I appreciate y'all so very, 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 very much. I'm your head brain training, loving you all misfit. I'll see y'all where?
The next event.
I love it, love it, love it. All right, everybody, go have some fun this evening, and we will see you in the morning. Till then, bye for now.
Night.